Well, I saw a little film called Yeti. It's about a Yeti. Yeah. Well, there's things about it that look promising and that I was certainly interested in. It's a period piece of sorts. It takes place, I believe, in the late 40s, because I think some of the characters it mentioned it sometime after World War II, so this would have put it in the late 40s. Although one of the characters, I believe, is supposed to have been a World War I veteran, I'm not sure. He looked a bit too young to have been that at that time. But blanking on quite a bit of the details there. But the main thing of it is, it had some of the aesthetics of it were interesting. And this one particular character, he was a guy who had been disfigured in the war, so he had one of those masks that covered up half his face, and they did that after World War I. There's a lot of people, parts of their face got blown off and that sort of thing. So they would fit them with these masks made out of, I don't know, some sort of plaster and leather or what have you, and this guy he's wearing that in this story. So anyway, the premise of it is, you've got these two men disappear into the wilderness of Alaska, and you've got one of them, his son, and the other one, the guy's daughter, and they come together to find them. Now, the daughter, she's a cartographer, and she lives in the shadow of her famous father, who's been this adventurous explorer and all that. And she's wearing a leg brace, and I didn't catch it if they'd actually said it or not, but I'm guessing she must have had polio and that sort of thing. But there's all these little accessories to the characters of stuff like that. So the son, well, he's the spoiled brat son of the father, but he's the one who's going to fund the team to go and find them. So he assembles this team. So then you got this ragtag cast of characters, the explosive expert, and you got the guy, the veteran of the war, who had his face blown off, and you got a couple other guys, and I'm already forgetting what their deal was. And then the daughter, who initially turns them down, but ultimately decides to join anyway to go find out what happened. And she's the main character and hero of the story, as she is mad at daddy and so on and so forth. So, and that's, a lot of the dialogue didn't really fit the time period. They really dropped the ball on that almost immediately. Even though at the outset it's starting off where it's trying to capture the essence of old horror movies or monster movie, what have you, of the era. And even the introduction of the team comes across like a matinee movie serial type thing. And probably if they'd have just dove into that completely, it might have had a more interesting approach to it. And who knows, could have worked. But it doesn't. It just doesn't really work. There's some elements they do right. The Yeti itself, there is a Yeti. It's not like it's just a myth and there's some other thing going on. There's some other stuff going on, but not to that extent. There really is a monster. But you don't get to see him full on. Not too much. But that's for the best, especially since they probably didn't have the wherewithal to make a convincing monster there, but was fine for how they did it. There is a baby Yeti that plays a role in this. That they really dropped the ball on. It just doesn't look all that convincing. And one of the things about it, and I'm not opposed to this at all. I think there's possibilities here, but you really got to think it through in framing and whatnot, and different approaches to this should have worked. The premise is fine. It's just a monster movie, and they've got this mission, so you understand what they're doing and all that. But the whole thing is shot on a soundstage. None of this is real. There's no location shots or anything like that. It's just entirely on a soundstage. And which again, I'd be fine with that, but the performances are not top notch and the dialogue is not all that great. And after a while, it's just sort of like, yeah, just hurry up and be done. And it's sad because there's potential here. I could see something like this really working out. But I don't know. They couldn't come up with it. They kind of just sort of, well, let's just put it together and get it over with. And that's about it. And there's too many things, like I said, the dialogue and whatnot, that kind of kicks you out of the story. You introduce this, seemingly, aesthetically anyway, colorful cast, and then they're quickly just dispatched and they don't really matter. And so that's about it. And ultimately it comes down to that the two fathers were at odds, and I guess her daddy wasn't so bad after all, and this type of thing. And that's how it plays out. In the end, the bigger monster was man, But and that's really all there is to it. It just sort of fizzles at that point. It's a strange thing because they were, like I said, the opening of how it's like a movie serial type thing of introducing the cast. Had they just gone full camp and stuff, and it was like they were going for a certain amount of comedy, especially with the son who's a bit pathetic and that sort of thing. But they really don't do much with it, and it just falls flat. And it's just, well, let's just get to this point and then the next point, and there we go, the end. I don't know. It's like it just lost interest in itself. So it wasn't that great. And it's sad because I did see a lot of potential here, and hopefully a different idea. Just this idea of being, because especially horror movies, they can be done on the cheap, and they can be really great, even though it's cheap. And keeping something like this just on the soundstage, and I'm sure they spent some amount of money on this. Not saying it was, they didn't spend anything, but if you're going to present it as you're capturing the eras, you got to do a little more effort to not only capture it but maintain it throughout your film, and you really got to study the dialogue and that sort of thing. You can't have people sounding like somebody you just heard last week. Then what's the point? You might as well put it in modern times. So, the framing and whatnot, it could have gone a long way, but the ultimate heart and soul of it just wasn't really there. And it's unfortunate. It could have been so much better. Nothing spectacular, I wouldn't think, but you never know with these things. But in this case, not so much. But some of the concepts would really like to see in better hands, I guess, to be fulfilled. But wasn't going to happen here for Yeti.